Good morning, all. Today we are going to learn Russian Revolution Part 2. Actually, which country, before we are going to learn, recapitulate the things which we have learned in the Part 1. Which country is the largest country in the world? Russia. Which country is the third largest populous country? Russia itself. How much population it had? 136 million population. When was the Russian Revolution took place? 1917. Who was the last emperor of Russia or last Tsar of Russia? Tsar Nicholas II. Who was the leader of Bolsheviks? Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. Why Russian calendar is different from others? Because it is following Julian calendar. Other countries are following Gregorian calendar. Who was the successor of Vladimir Lenin? Successor in the sense, who came after Vladimir Lenin? Stalin. Now let us learn about the rise of Stalin. How Stalin came into the power. After the death of Lenin in 1924, Stalin emerged as the leader of the Communist Party. See, generally, Stalin established his absolute power. What is meant by absolute power? The ultimate power to control. The Communist Party is the party is one which curbed all the opposition parties and established an absolute power over Russia after the revolution, so that it is the only party which became a strong and absolute party over the country. And it also, due to this strong and strengthened single largest party, it could able to strengthen the economy and also to bring the strong leadership under the leadership of Stalin. So actually, Russia was a country before 1917 under the control of Tsars. Tsars means autocratic rulers. Tsar means an emperor who was an autocratic ruler. The last Tsar or the last emperor was Nicholas II. So it was comprising of 15 states. After 1907, it was divided into 15 independent states, just like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Russia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, Uzbekistan. So like that, 15 states were there. So all of them again united as USSR. That means Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in 1924 under the leadership of Stalin. Almost all of them are the old Tsarist countries. Stalin introduced a twin policy for the development of Russia. What is meant by twin policy? Two particular decisions, two particular policies are taken at a time is called as twin policy. He introduced a twin policy. What are there in the twin policy? First one is the rapid industrialization. The other one is the collectivization of agriculture. What is meant by rapid industrialization? Faster growth of industrial sector is nothing but rapid industrialization. Then what is meant by collectivization of agriculture? Collectivization means a collection of all the lands and making them united, used to crop. Used to till over them, combinedly tilling. There is no way for the individual land holdings for the people. Now let us see what are the Stalin's economic policies, why he followed it. See, Stalin wants to modernize the economy of Russia. Till then, it was under the Tsar's rule, and they could not able to develop the Russia. Only they concentrated over giving pressure over the people for collection of more taxes and developing of a particular section of people, just like feudal arts. Feudal arts means landlords. See, to modernize the USSR and to achieve the economic and military levels at the West, as equal as the Western powers, he tried to introduce some modifications in Russia. For that purpose, the industrialization. Without industrialization, nothing can be done. So that he concentrated over the industrialization. Stalin brought a great change in economic policies to make Russia as a dominant in the world and also the self-sufficient. What is meant by self-sufficient? Self-sufficient means it could able to produce whatever it is required without depending upon any other country. If it could able to produce the needs of it, it is called as the self-sufficient. And see, it also does not depend upon any other country for its trade. All these things, how he managed with the 5 year plans. Let us see about them. Before we are going to know them, let us see Stalin and his twin policies of development. He followed the twin policies of collectivization and rapid industrialization. In the beginning, many problems faced by peasants. Peasants means small farmers. And also bourgeois opposed his policies. Bourgeois, who are bourgeois? Capitalists in Russia are called as bourgeois. These bourgeois are the capitalists opposed his policies. What is collectivization? Let us come to collectivization. Collectivization means in a village or in a society, the people used to collect almost all of them, all the lands, all the lands, and they pool into one particular uh, vast land without any boundaries. Without any boundaries, if they could able to produce, if they pool into one single land holding, then they can use the high level of machinery, tools and everything, so that they can get the good yielding. To end the small peasant production by forcing all the small and large farmers to surrender their lands. Here the small peasants, with pleasure, they had hand over the lands to the comintern's. But whereas the large farmers and the bourgeois, they did not accept it to surrender their lands because they are losing. Not only surrendering lands, along with the tools and animals and also the machinery which is used under the farms is also to be surrendered to the cominterns. These are called as the collective farms. This is called the collectivization of agriculture. In the initial period in 1929-30, actually severe famine hit the Russia. What is the reason for famine? Famine occurs due to the lack of food. Lack of food, famines occur. What is the reason for it? Because there are no proper cultivation in the fields, because most of the big landlords, large landlords, the large land holdings were given to the cominterns. At the same time, small peasants also there. They were provided employment under the large landlords, feudal lords. But however, whenever they had handed to the government, so there is a transition period. In this period, actually, they could not able to grow the crops within the reach of the needs of Russia. So, however, it was not up to the mark. So that many deaths took place. People suffered a lot. Actually, the Russian Revolution based on peace and bread. But unfortunately, in the initial period of 5 year planning or the collectivization, starvation took place. Starvation means deaths due to the hunger is called as the starvation. So generally, droughts may be the reason for that. If there is no rainfall for long periods, then automatically it is called the situation of drought. This drought situation may lead to the famine. That means starvation, because of not sufficient food production. Not having sufficient food production, automatically it leads to the hunger deaths, which is called as the starvation. Thousands of large farmers opposed collectivization and had to face imprisonment. If anybody opposes, already I told you in the beginning, he established a strong leadership, so that if anybody opposes them, they were imprisoned. Some of them were deported. What is meant by deportation? Deportation means sending them out of the village or the country. We can say that exiling them. బయటికి బహిష్కరించడం, తరిమివేసడం, బహిష్కరించడం అంటాం తెలుగులో. And even death. Some of them were sentenced to death imprisonment, Marana Siksha. This helped USSR to concentrate on rapid industrialization. So, no, then some of the people, even they are disliked, they are not interested in the policies of communism which were followed by Stalin. They didn't come out and they could not able to express their views except they are supporting to the government. If anybody opposes or if they do not support, then they were sentenced to death imprisonment or severe imprisonment or deportation. So that there was no another way for the people except accepting the policies of the Stalin. So as it is taken place, there was a way for rapid industrialization. It paved way for the rapid industrialization, and also under the control of the state or government control. See, most of these industries were established under the control of the governments. In Magnitogorsk is the name of a city in the north side of Russia. The construction of a steel plant was achieved in 3 years. Within the period of 3 years, they could able to establish a steel plant. Workers lived hard lives and result was 550 stoppages of work in the first year alone. So there were so many accidents. Sometimes they faced a lot of troubles. There was no hygienic conditions. They were caused due to the contaminous diseases. All these made the stoppages, so that 550 times within a year the works were stopped. So that the conditions were very severe and hard. Then the government also took some measures to improve their conditions. In the beginning, the condition of workers grew worse, and they had to climb down from the 4th floor to the ground floor in order to go to the toilet also. See, workers were provided some accommodation in the rural areas, where in the cities, outskirts of the cities. But 4 or 5 floor buildings or 5 or 5 story buildings, 5 అంతస్తుల భవనాలు or 4 అంతస్తుల భవనాలు. From them they had to get down. If they need to go to the toilet, they had to get down from the 4th or 5th floor to the toilet. So that these were the problems. The government took several welfare measures to overcome all these problems, and they also extended the schooling system for factory workers. If the factory workers are literary people, then they could contribute a lot of production in the country, because the learned workers or the educated workers can contribute to skilled labor. If many of them are skilled, the work could be easier and they can contribute a lot of production. And peasants to enter universities. See, workers and peasants are accepted to enter into universities. Universities means, so most of the universities which offer the degrees for them, they train the people, the workers, the peasants, and they used to give them some work certificates or degrees for them. Then they became the skilled workers. In some of the areas, for the women workers, the factory owners also, factories also provided creches. Creches means actually baby care centers. The actual meaning of crèche was cradle, but here baby care center was also called a crèche or crèche. They were established at the factories for the children of the working women, so that the women also contributed and participated in the production. And moreover, to improve the conditions of the workers, the public health care system was provided by them, and they also set up some model living quarters. Quarters were provided for the workers, and several other welfare measures also taken. Now let us see What kind of measures were introduced by the government? Actually, USSR achieved full employment for all its citizens within the short span. With these measures, full employment, how is it possible for all its citizens? Because of the entire industries, the entire agriculture was under the control of the government itself, so that they could able to achieve the full employment for all its citizens. They are able to improve their standard of living substantially. What is meant by standard of living? Standard of living means the level of living. For example, if I am using the costliest products, high, for example, if a person is having 10 rupees in the hand, then he could get a tiffin in the Kaka hotel or a roadside hotel. But if he is having 100 rupees, then he can go to a big restaurant and he can have some biryani or something else, because of their ability to spend, their standard of living also is being changed. Because of their expenditure over the basic needs, on the basis of them we can understand their standard of living. See, if any person is using the luxurious life, then their standard of living is very better, much better. Whereas a person could not able to arrange his basic needs, just like for food and shelter, then he could be treated as the person under the poverty line. He could not reach the up to the mark. His standard of living is very low. In such a way, able to improve the standard of living of the workers substantially by the Russian government because of their measures. They also managed to universalize literacy and primary education. If any country has to develop, first of all, we have to give the proper education for them. Without giving proper education for the children in the country, no country can contribute large scale production, and it had to depend upon the other countries. There would be no inventions also, no creative ideas. See, in addition to the above, just the 5-year plans were introduced by Russia in the year 1922 under the leadership of Joseph Stalin. USSR achieved all its development through the 5-year planning only. First 5-year plan was started in 1928. In India also we had followed some 5-year plans up to very recently, 2015. 5-year plans are the plans which are going to prepare for the forthcoming 5 years. That means coming 5 years. How to give priority, which sector is to be given priority, what are the needs the country to be fulfilled. All these are set in the goals of the 5-year plans. Accordingly, they will follow. USSR was the first country which followed the planning system. India was also another country. Was also another country which followed the 5-year plan after Russia. So in these 5-year plans, there was a planned development. They gave importance for the need-based production. They gave priority for the need-based production, whichever needed first. On them, they had to spend the money, and they established the industries in such a way. For example, the basic needs. First of all, we should concentrate the iron and steel and power industries for the rapid development of the industries. So in such a way, we can plan which is essential, which is to be given the first priority, and which is to be given second priority. All of them is possible through planning system. So at the same time, by 1929, almost all the world is hit by Great Depression. What is meant by Great Depression? Great Depression means it is nothing but a closure of factories, and millions of employees lost their workers and employees lost their jobs, and thousands of peasants found the prices for their goods fallen. What was the reason for this situation? There was no particular reason, but see here, it is a chain process, just like a chain process. For example, the impact of one goods may show the price of one goods may show their impact on the other goods. For example, let us think coffee. If the price of coffee powder increases, automatically the price of coffee also increases. Or sugar increases, the coffee also increases. Automatically what happens? The demand for the if the sugar price increases, the demand for coffee also declines, because of without having sugar we could not uh, produce coffee. So that milk also, then the production will be less because there is no demand for them, demand declined. So the factories reduce the production of them, automatically the demand for them, when the demand declines, factories reduces their production, and automatically it shows its impact on the other goods also. In such a way, so what may be the reasons for Great Depression? We could not come to a common a conclusion, but here the Great Depression means closure of factories, and also loss of loss of employment by the millions of people and peasants. This is called as the Great Depression. During this Great Depression times, almost all the countries were worst hit by them, including America. America was one of the important country which was worst hit by the Great Depression. But the USSR could able to manage or could able to escape from the effect of the Great Depression. So the Great Depression's impact shown on the world from 1929 to 1939. Fall of prices over the world, loss of employment over the entire world. But the Russia could able to manage the effect of the escape the effect of the Great Depression. How? Because of it was not integrated with the international market. Already I told you about that. Russia concentrated on self-sufficiency. What is meant by self-sufficiency? Producing the goods, whatever required by it. So they should be produced itself. It need not to depend upon any other country for its demands, for its needs. And moreover, how it is possible? It is possible through the planned economy, because in the planning itself, the government concentrated which is essential for the development of the country. They shown their uh, priority. They gave their priority for the uh, need-based production, and they designed the planned economy. 5-year planning was followed by them. The state control over the production, supply, and pricing. So generally, state means the government or the center. Here, the government used to control over the production, supply, and pricing. Production, supply, and pricing. What is meant by production? Whatever we produce is production. Then what is supply? Supply means all the production is not supply. Supply is different from production. Production means whatever output came from the industries is production. Supply means from that production which is ready to sell. For example, 100 tons of iron is produced by a iron and steel company. Then what is the production of it? 100 tons of iron. But only 20 tons of iron is ready to sell in the market. Then the supply is only 20 tons. Even if you have produced 100 tons of iron, only 20 tons are available for selling in the market, then it is called as supply. The amount of the amount of production is ready to sell in the market or is ready to exchange in the market is called as the supply. Pricing also was under the control of the state in communist governments, and socialist government like Russia. So all of them made to manage to escape from the effect of the Great Depression. See, and they also maintained the balance. It is a picture during the Great Depression, Second World War, after the World War One. See here the Stalin's flex. Now let us see the situation. See, even if they followed almost all of the developmental activities, there was also a criticism. What was the criticism over the communism? Enormous centralization of political power in hands of Communist Party and its leaders. Enormous political power. Political power was in the hands of the Communist Party. How the political centralization is there? Already I told you about the centralization. Centralization means the concentration of the power in a few hands of the Communist Party and its leaders, so that the other parties or the other people could not able to control them. Ordinary liberties to citizens were denied. There were no other liberties, freedoms, or rights for the people. If anybody opposes, they used to curb them by using the forceful methods, including large scale execution. Execution means a killing of a large scale execution means massive killing, or the execution of the opposition leaders sometimes. All these methods for the building up of socialism and to defeat the designs of the capitalist powers. Capitalism was followed by the many countries, just like USA, Britain, and the other countries. But to USSR was a country which escaped from the Great Depression by following the communist views. Here, the capitalism is followed by USA and other countries. They were worst hit by the Great Depression, and here to avoid the capitalism, the forceful methods were used by the communist leaders, just like Stalin and others. USSR's experiment inspired many other countries also in the world. So just like North Korea, Cuba, Vietnam, Laos, and also China, these countries also followed the socialistic views. Many of the Indian freedom fighters also inspired by the socialistic ideas of Russia. Among them, M.N. Roy, top left, left down, Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, and right side topper, Jawaharlal Nehru. These were inspired by them. There was also allegations and discontent. Allegations means nindaropanlu. Discontent means asantrupti. What was the discontent? Discontent. Discontent in the discontent that the socialism just like as an animal form. So all the animals will be in the form are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others. See, Animal Farm is the name of the book written by George Orwell. In his book, he says that all of them are equal in socialism, but some people were given the ultimate political powers, and there were no democratic powers, freedoms. It was suppressed by the communist leaders. There was there is also denial of a multi-party democracy, but they are assuring the equality to all the citizens. How is it possible? That was the discontent expressed in a satiric book written by George Orwell named as the Animal Farm. See, it is a table. So debates over socialism in Russia, 1850 to 1880s. Formation of the Russian Socialist Democratic Workers' Party in 1898. Further, it formed as the Socialist Party. Next, in 1905, Bloody Sunday and the Revolution of 1905. 1917, 2nd March, abdication. Abdication means leaving, left the throne of the Tsar. 24th October, Bolshevik uprising in Petrograd, means Moscow. Moscow is the name of the new name of the Petrograd. Civil War. Civil War between 1917 to 1920, but here it is given 1918 to 20. Okay, up to here it is correct, but according to our knowledge, 1970. Formation of Comintern. Comintern means workers. Government is called as the Comintern. Workers, peasants, all of them formed as the Comintern in the Communist Party at the top level. The Comintern will decide the rulers. Next, beginning of the collectivization in 1929. In 1928, the 5-year planning was also introduced. You can know, I think all of you have learned this lesson. Just let us review with the questions. Answers will be in the next episode. When was the Joseph Stalin emerged as a leader of Russia? Abbreviate USSR. When Great Depression hit the world. What were the reforms followed by Stalin? Who wrote Animal Farm? When was Russian Revolution started? What were the welfare measures taken by USSR? What was Comintern? Let us see the answers next. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.